Real estate agents, are you struggling with the day-to-day grind, dialing for dollars, putting in hours of floor time with little to show for it? Are you looking for tips, tricks, and tactics to accelerate your career as an agent that will have you closing more homes, working with more clients, and earning more money than ever before? Hi, my name's Cliff Freeman, and I've spent the past 2 decades of my real estate career running one of the top brokerages in DFW and personally coaching over 1,000 high-performing real estate professionals across North America. I created this podcast to share the strategies and tactics you need to explode your real estate business. I guarantee it. Oh my goodness, here we are, everybody. Welcome to the show. I got to tell you, this is going to be a Hall of Fame show. I mean, I am not kidding. We have a guest on today that's going to blow your mind. So if you would, take your cell phones, put them on airplane mode, get out a legal sheet, a paper, whatever you want to take notes on, a napkin, whatever it is. But you're going to want to be totally engaged here as we bring on a good friend of mine and a gentleman who has rocked real estate as we know it, and his name is AJ Mida. But before we bring AJ out for everybody to meet, I want to introduce my co-host. This is Cliff Freeman III, numero tres, otherwise affectionately known as C3. C3, we're glad to have you here at the show today, sir.
Well, thank you again for having me.
Of course. I wouldn't have it any other way, my friend. And also Pilot back there, the gentleman who gets this thing off the ground, up in the air and back down on the ground, the man of renown himself, Mr. Trelvis. Is it Giles or Giles?
It's Giles. No, that's correct.
Okay.
Hopefully without incident. I get it up in the air, back on the ground, and everything like that.
That's right. Yeah. We got the software working here today. This one works. Go. Yeah, for sure. And I think C3, you had a question for Trelvis, I believe, right?
Well, yeah, we got the NBA draft going on. Coming up tonight. So I just wanted to know, I had a question for you. Who's your first round pick? If you were to be the Pelicans, who do you choose?
That's an easy one. Zion Williamson. I mean, it's got to be. He's a high flyer. He's everything you want in a player.
Is that? Did you get do you have inside information on this or what? Huh?
I just keep track of it pretty good.
You better watch out now. Martha Stewart went to jail for that stuff, right? For inside information.
Shouldn't be any of that. I guarantee you.
By the way, I used to be quite the basketball stud back when I was in high school. I don't know if I ever told you that or not.
Yeah?
Yeah, I was.
What position did you play?
Bench. No, I did get to play a couple of games in junior high school, and I could touch the rim. I was pretty pretty
so
impressed.
Had some hops.
Yeah, I had I had a little jet in my shoes there, but that's long gone. And
really nice.
That's a little bit of me that a lot of people don't know about. That I was a real big basketball star in junior high school. So I just thought I'd share that with everybody. Yeah. All right. Cool. Well, hey, listen, I can't wait any longer. It is that time. AJ, are you out there? I want to. Can we find you in Puerto Rico somewhere? What's happening, my friend? How are you?
What's going on?
Hey, man.
I am good. Happy to be on.
This is another day in paradise in Dallas, but I can tell you it's nothing like where you are in paradise today, my friend.
Yeah, it's pretty beautiful here. It's about 85 degrees, sunny, and I'm looking at the ocean right now with palm trees.
Oh well,
wow.
You're good. I know you got your set up there, but if you could pan over there sometime, maybe later on in the show, I think we'd love to show off some of those beautiful palm trees. So, ladies and gentlemen in the audience there, if you have never seen or met or heard of AJ Mida, you are about to get turned upside down. AJ, you and I became good friends and got to know each other in some mutual business. I coached you very briefly, I guess about 2.5 years ago, and you have done something. You've accomplished things in the last 2.5 years that people can't even dream about, and let alone in a lifetime. I think it's important that we give a little background here because you've only been in real estate since 2012, right?
That's right. Yep. Got licensed end of 2012.
All right. Well, if you don't mind, would you just walk us back a little bit and tell us? I mean, you and your beautiful wife Abby, you guys, you've been through a lot of things, but give us the kind of the cliff notes here, if you would, on your history, how you got into real estate, just kind of the early days. Tell us about that, would you?
Cool. Yeah. So I grew up in Michigan, and then I was out in California for a brief 3 years, and decided kind of on a whim to move to North Carolina, not knowing anybody. So when we first landed there, we didn't have any jobs. My wife ended up getting a job as an ICU nurse, and I started a painting company. And I quickly found out over about a 6-month period that I didn't want to be in the painting business long term. So it was kind of a freak accident. I was involved in a four-wheeling accident, flipped the four-wheeler, it landed on my leg, broke my leg, and thankfully during that time, I happened to just have the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book on my shelf at home because I'm an avid reader. I picked that up while sitting on the couch over the next couple of weeks, read that whole book as fast as I could, and got my real estate license a few months later.
Wow, that's amazing. So the book that you're referring to, I'm sure that's the Red Book, MREA. Is that right? Is that the one?
That's it.
Okay, so it's still a great book. That was written back in, I don't remember the actual year it was written now, but it's been a couple of decades ago. And I think that single book probably helped more people get off the ground in real estate than anything. What was it like for you, though? You really crushed it from the year you got in the business. What were you doing that first year that led to this incredible success that you had? Or was it right away? Tell us about that.
Yeah, definitely. So my first year was absolutely awesome. I got Rookie of the Year for my office. I sold a whopping 6 houses and pretty much made no money. So I really did get Rookie of the Year, and I really made no money after I spent money on lead generation. I was really just trying a million different things, like I feel like a lot of new agents end up doing when they first get in the business. And it wasn't until I actually hired a coach on a credit card and flew out to a conference in Las Vegas that July of 2013, where I decided that I was going to go all in on just a couple of lead generation activities and really time block my schedule for that lead generation. And by the end of that first year, I ended up having over 20 listings. And in my second year, I sold 36 houses.
All right. So was that the most important decision that you made that first year, was to get involved with a coach?
Yeah, 100%. What I find coaching does for me and for most people is it collapses time frames. So I think eventually, maybe over 3-4 years, I could have got to that point where I was selling, 3 homes a month. But I'm a firm believer in coaching because I want to reach my goals faster, and I'm always involved in some kind of coaching program or mastermind program still to this day.
That's amazing. And just to kind of take a sidebar here you are really retired and you're still involved in getting coaching. But I think let's take the top athletes, golfers are a good example. You look at Tiger Woods, Jordan Spieth, these incredible athletes that go out there day to day, grind it out, and they're always on top of the leaderboard. Most of them have a coach or 2 or 3 or 4. And real estate is kind of the same way, as we found. And so if you had one single piece of advice that you would give somebody who's in their first year in real estate, what would it be?
So I have a 3-step process for that, actually. The number one thing a new agent, or really any agent, can use this, what they need to do is figure out what their why right now is. If you've been in the personal development space at all, you've probably heard, what's your big why? And what I've discovered is a lot of times we need to focus on what our why right now is, because a lot of people, their why right now might just be paying the mortgage or paying the car payment or paying off some credit cards, whatever that might be. Because I find a lot of times if we just have this big why, that we don't take the action necessary today to really move forward, because it's just too far in the future and we can't really, it's not reality for us. But if we know in 3 months we want this to happen and make this amount of money, then we're able to connect the dots to what we're doing on a daily basis to hit that goal. So once you have your why right now, you got to know what game you're playing. So when I first started in real estate, I didn't know what game I was playing. I went to different real estate classes, learning about, how to do open houses, how to, back in the day we used to generate leads on Craigslist. I'm sure you can still do it today, but I was trying to get leads on Craigslist, holding open houses, calling FSBOs, expireds, doing all these different things. And I didn't know what game I was playing. And then finally, when I hired a coach and went to that conference, I figured out the game that I was playing. And then, like any good game, you want to know how you win. And you know how you win when you have a target. And for me, that first year, it was to have a listing inventory of over 20 listings. So that was how I knew I won that year. So first, know your why right now. know what game you're playing, and know what it looks like when you actually won. So
right.
you need to do that 3-step process.
That's awesome. So, I mean, you've covered a lot here. I mean, strategic planning, having goals. Let's go back to the why. Is there a particular book that you would recommend that agents can get their hands on to help them figure out what their why is?
Man, there are so many good books. Specifically to your why, nothing comes to mind, but I will say the #1 personal development book that I recommend that anybody reads, and I'm sure it talks about your why in it, is called The Success Principles by Jack Canfield. Same guy that developed it. Yeah. So good. It's like 67 principles or whatever it is, and it's just, it's like written so well where it's entertaining, keeps you intrigued. And I've read that book multiple times, and it's like 450, 500 pages. So
absolutely, yeah,
pick that up.
I taught that in a market center for a large brokerage for a while, and it really is. So I happen to be thinking of a book, and Simon Sinek wrote a book called Start With Why. So if anybody out there is looking for really taking a deep dive into figuring out what your why is, that's a good one. And AJ, I'm sure that's come across your library, but I wanted to just throw that out there. So, reading is such an important part of growing. And I know you're a big, you went to 10X? Did you go this year?
No, I've read some of Grant Cardone's books, but haven't been to 10X. If that's what you're referring to.
Who are some of your other mentors and people that you really respect and follow?
Yeah, so right now I'm in Brennan Burchard's mastermind. If you don't know who Brennan Burchard is, for those of you listening or watching, he's a high performance coach, kind of like a Tony Robbins, but more geared towards like entrepreneurs, business professionals, people like that. He's personally coached Oprah, Usher, Ariana Huffington with the Huffington Post. And I just love what he puts out there because a lot of it's marketing based, and a lot of it is really just around living your best life, performing at the highest level that you can. So he's who I'm studying under right now.
Okay. All right. Excellent. Brennan Burchard. And yeah, I mean, I love, he's a great guy. He's got lots of videos on YouTube if you're interested. Is it financial? What kind of a stretch financially is it for somebody who's interested in it, but doesn't have, I mean, you said earlier, you went out on a limb and like maxed out your credit card to go get a coach. I mean, what about people that just don't have the money? Is it something you would still recommend? They go out and just lay it all out on the table?
Yeah, I mean, it depends. You got to know yourself. And if you're all in and you're willing to bet on yourself, there's no reason why you shouldn't go all in and hire a coach, whether you're putting it on a credit card or whatever. I know for me personally, if I didn't take that risk, if I didn't put that coach on a credit card, put that conference on a credit card, there's a good chance that I would have been out of real estate in a couple of years. Maybe I would have never become successful like I am today through real estate if I hadn't gotten a coach. I'm not sure. I don't like to think if it would have went the other way. But yeah, I mean, you got to bet on yourself and you got to go all in.
All right. So that's exciting. By the way, are you okay with sharing with us what your why was? When you did that self-discovery, what did you find out that it really meant to you?
Yeah, so at that time period, I was at a real estate conference in Las Vegas, and I was sitting there. I was all excited, I was probably 26 then, and was probably wearing my suit that I picked up while I was going to high school prom. So I'm wearing this old cheap suit, and I had my leg crossed against my leg, and I reached down and I actually felt a hole in my shoe. And I realized at that point that this was now or never. I've wanted to be successful my entire life since I can remember. I remember in 7th grade playing, the stock market inside class, like learning about that. So I always wanted to be successful, and I never achieved the success that I was looking for. And that for me was a defining moment. So my why right then became, well, let's get some shoes without holes in them. And then secondly, my wife was working as an ICU nurse. And she was a lot of times working 12, 16-hour shifts. ICU is extremely difficult, and she was working midnights. And a lot of times because of anxiety and just not knowing what was going to happen that night, people are dying. It's a really big deal. she would sometimes be, tearing up before she had to go to work. And a lot of it was getting her out of her nursing position as well. She loved it. She loved helping people. But I wanted to be able to provide for her and allow her to retire from doing that, which we were able to eventually do 2 years later.
Right. So would it be fair to say that you actually, where you are now, were you able to visualize that years back? Did you ever believe that you would be in the financial and have the freedom that you have today? Could you see that back then?
Yeah, there's never a doubt in my mind.
Okay, because visualization of, to achieve your goals is really everything. And I think some people, I'm sure you would agree with this, some people need to expand their vision a little bit and really think about what their BHAG is. What's their big, hairy, audacious goal? What's the thing that what's their legacy? What do they want to have written between the born on date and the died on date, that little dash in there, right, on their tombstone? All right, so 20 listings at the end of your first year. And I believe at the time you and I started working together, you and Abby and your team were doing about 600,000, if I recall, in sales. Can you take us up to that part of your real estate career? Now, this is only a short time in relative terms after you really got into real estate, but tell us about that.
Yeah, exactly. So we were, that was the second year when we were working with you where we did 600,000 in gross commission income. And yeah, it was awesome. We started a small team. We had a few buyer's agents, an assistant. And what's really important to myself and my wife is that we don't work ourselves crazy. So I've never been the person that is going to work 50, 60, 70 hours a week for a long period of time. So it's always been important to me to run kind of like a lifestyle business, I guess, if you want to call it that. To where when we were running the team, we were working about 30 hours a week. Sometimes we might work 40 hours a week, but for the most part, it wasn't working any weekends. It wasn't barely working any nights unless I had a listing appointment. And that was important to me because what I found, Cliff, is that at the end of the day, the reason why most people want to be successful is not because they want to have a lot of money, because they want to be just achieve financial success without ever really reflecting on what your ultimate goal is, which is probably happiness, then you're going to end up in a place where you don't want to be. So I was able to fortunately realize that at a young age, and that's through reading books, podcasts, and always investing back in myself to be able to actually have realize that about life. So.
Well, I've always said you're well wise, well beyond your years, AJ, and you have an incredible maturity and wisdom about you, and I'm thankful that you're here, and hopefully you're going to leave an impression on our audience because it's a very positive thing. You have such positive karma flowing around you. It's like a field. Whenever somebody gets within a few feet of you, they feel that positive energy that you have. And I know right now you're impacting a lot of people. So at one point, and you and I had a discussion, you were contemplating leaving the big brokerage and going independent because you were trying to solve some problems. Tell the audience what kinds of problems you were trying to solve when you're running a team that's doing 600,000 a year in sales.
Yeah, that's a good question. I guess the problem I was trying to solve at that point in time with expansion was because I had recently gone to expansion system orientation with KW and came back, and that's when we had that conversation. And I just wanted, I guess, more opportunity, more growth, more income, because you mentioned at the beginning of the call that time freedom, financial freedom, and location freedom, which we now have. I've discovered that as a real estate agent, we get into real estate agent, whether you were a teacher before or whatever profession you're in before, you get in to have some kind of freedom. And we quickly realize that we're slaves to our business and we don't have the time freedom. We don't have the money freedom. If you have time freedom, it's because you have no money, because you don't have clients. And if you have money freedom, it's because you're working like crazy, so you don't have the time freedom. And if you're constantly selling houses and don't have residual income, then you definitely don't have location freedom. And that's a search that I've been on my entire life. So I thought by, I guess potentially having a large organization through expansion inside of that model, that maybe one day I could achieve it. So that was really the hope I was trying to solve. Looking back on it now, I very clearly see that it was not a path that would have taken me there. And I'm so thankful for the conversation that you and I had around that time.
You know, I'm grateful for that conversation as well. You know, but I think our mindset was still, and I'm going to go back to that red book that you mentioned earlier, because that really, for a lot of us, was the Bible on how to build a real estate team and get up to the 7th level so you could ostensibly, that's a good SAT word, you could ostensibly step out of the business and have this passive income coming in. Well, as we all know, it's kind of like if you own a restaurant, the minute you step out of it, all the wheels start to pop off, and it's very difficult to achieve that. So what you've been able to do, though, because of the unique platform, the situation that you're in now, tell us a little bit about how you're helping a greater number of people and getting rewarded by helping those people without, for example, having to run their credit card for a coaching fee. What is it that's different about the way that you're generating income now?
Yeah, well, there's a lot different, and there's a lot that I'd love to share, and maybe we can peel the layers back more through this discussion. But it was really a new platform that I saw, a new company, and at that time I saw an opportunity to expand with no money. If I would have went to expand the other way, it would have been hundreds of thousands of dollars, potentially even in monthly overhead at some point, to have the size of an organization that I have now. That would not be far-fetched to think that it would have been 6 figures a month in overhead. So I saw an opportunity to have no money invested, and to also have a system that I'm plugged into where it's not me. Like, I'm in a position now where I don't have to show up, and I keep getting paid, which is a really good thing. That's called residual income. So so that's when we made the switch to the company that we're with now, and haven't looked back. And what's cool about it, Cliff, is I remember I was actually just having this conversation with a buddy of mine, Gene Frederick, yesterday, and we were talking about the expansion model in general, and how him and I had both done an exercise where we looked at like the top 50 markets in the U.S. and how we were kind of looking at what it would be like if we were to expand in those markets. And it's just cool now because I had that plan, and a month later, you and I had that conversation, and now just 2.5 years later, I can't even tell you how many different markets, but 37 different states, probably over 100 markets, I would imagine, 4 Canadian provinces, and England. So it's just been a wild ride these last 2.5 years, and I'm just so thankful for the opportunity that I've had, and the fun that we're having now at this point.
Yeah, I mean, you're a very humble guy, AJ. That's one whale-sized accomplishment. So right now, as far as agents in your network or in your group, how many agents do you have in there?
We have 1,312.
So you support 1,312 agents through the platform. That's incredible. And you said 37 states. That I know that we've got a long way between here and Puerto Rico. It might have broken up a little bit, but I just want to reiterate those numbers. You said 37 states, and how many Canadian provinces?
4.
And then also
and now,
the UK?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
that's
UK.
Yeah, I mean, that's unbelievable. So you are fully, your money, and Warren Buffett, I'll never forget this quote. Warren Buffett said, you probably heard this one, C3, right? You're a Warren Buffett fan. He said that if you can't make money while you're sleeping, then you're going to have to work your whole life, right? Isn't that what it was? I think that was it. And you've actually accomplished that. So you and Abby, you guys, and what we haven't shared is your story about how you guys traveled the country. You bought a beautiful mobile home that was, I mean, I'm not talking about an Airstream. I mean, this thing looked like, Leonard Skinner or John Bon Jovi's, mobile home cruising down the highway. And you guys went all over the place. You traveled. You checked off those bucket list things. At the time, you had 2 beautiful huskies. I know. I'm sorry about the one that passed. But I mean, you guys really laid the example for, how to live life to the fullest. And it's always been exciting to watch that. And now, my gosh, you go to Puerto Rico. I know we were all in Orlando together. You go there, you visit with Gene, and now you guys are in Puerto Rico. And I'm actually going to be there in September and hope we get to hang out for a couple days as well. So running a real estate business from Puerto Rico, how do you do it? I mean, really, I know there are people out there going, this can't be real. AJ's, this is all photoshopped. He's actually in Fort Worth. He's not in Puerto Rico. But how do you do it?
So I just got to correct you real quick. You said mobile home. I actually take offense to mobile home. It's a motor home.
Did I see motor?
Yeah, mobile.
Forgive me. I didn't mean like one of those things with an NASCAR wrap around the bottom. I know they have those in North Carolina where you were. A motor home. Yeah. I mean, tricked out. You have a picture of it you can show us?
I could probably pull something up, but I'm just kidding. I don't take offense to that.
Yeah.
The first house I ever actually lived in when I came home from the hospital was a mobile home. So, I think it actually is a really unique opportunity to be able to live in a mobile home at some point, because I think that's good motivation to want to achieve higher things.
Yeah, I'm not knocking mobile homes at all, but yours, the one you were born in, wouldn't go 75 miles an hour down the highway, though, right?
Not unless a big semi truck was pulling it or something.
Okay. Yeah, just differentiating the point there. That's all.
Yeah, the motorhome's awesome.
Yeah.
So August 1st of last year, we decided to sell our house in North Carolina and travel the country in our motorhome, and it's absolutely amazing. We had so much fun with it. It's really nice, like you said, Cliff. It's got his and her sinks. It actually has 4 TVs, and we always laugh because we've never actually lived. I've been married 9 years now, and we've never actually been in a home that has had more than 1 TV, but our motorhome has had 4. So we had a lot of fun with that. And then we decided to move to Puerto Rico because it's the Caribbean, and I absolutely love the ocean. I want to get into surfing and kiteboarding and scuba diving, all that kind of stuff. So it was really just a lifestyle decision to move here in Puerto Rico.
Oh, that's magic. And I recall you and Abby, when you got the new motorhome, you actually did a YouTube video. And I was thinking to myself, Sarah Allison's a friend of mine up at Pie Town Productions. I always thought about, I need to give Sarah a call, and so that they can have a new HGTV show on how to sell real estate from the road in a motorhome, because you guys did that. And in fact, you still have some production. I think, if I recall, you sold your team, but occasionally you're still getting a real estate transaction come across your desk or something along those lines, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep, exactly. So we were able to set it up to where we still receive referral fees on our database. So we were able to retire from selling real estate November 1st of 2017. And I actually just got paid some referral fees this week. So, it's a pretty cool thing to be able to do that. A lot of people talk about being able to sell their real estate business, and what they're talking about is being able to sell their database. And for the most part, and I think that's a big problem we have in the real estate industry, Cliff, is that most real estate agents end up working their entire lives, and then when they're ready to call it, they just kind of shut everything down. They really don't have a sellable asset. And a lot of times they don't even have a really strong residual income source in place, and they end up living off Social Security, which is a really sad thing, because real estate is not an easy job. If you're a real estate agent listening to this, which you probably are, it's not easy. And to not be able to retire, and live the type of life that you would love to live, like that's just, that's, to me, that's like the greatest, like, upsetting thing that could happen. Like, my wish is for every real estate agent to be able to retire and live life the way they want to live life, whether they're 32 or 68. So,
and that's what your mission. I mean, and I know you're a godly guy and have a strong faith, but your mission these days is to help real estate agents have a life after real estate. That was the biggest. When you and I had that conversation, I had been stressed out about outliving my money, because believe me, if you're 1099, chances are you're not even paying into Social Security, so there's very little of it there for you. And most of us in real estate are just dragging around from transaction to transaction. And I just had a dream, it was a nightmare actually, of being in my 70s. And not that there's anything wrong with being in your 70s and selling real estate, but I just didn't want to be schlepping around snotty-nosed kids in the backseat of my car when I could be spending time with my family and my grandkids and things like that. So I know that's a problem that we've all tried to solve, and you've done an amazing job of doing it. So just in deference to time, AJ, gosh, I wish we had an hour to go on this show today, because you've got so much to offer and so much value to share with other agents. If there's someone out there in the audience who wanted to reach out to you and just find out a little bit more about how you're doing what you're doing and how to get on that success trail, to get off the transaction treadmill and to really build a career and a life, would you be willing to share your contact information with the audience?
Yeah, definitely. So the best place to find me is really going to be on Facebook, just at AJ Mida. And also my YouTube channel is AJ Mida. And we also have one that we dedicated to our travels around the country. So you can see a tour of the motorhome like Cliff had mentioned, and that's at One Life Living. That's kind of our motto that we live by, is that, I found that a lot of people think that, this life is a dress rehearsal, and it's not. It's the real game. We have one life, so that's kind of our mission, is inviting and helping others to live their one life, whether it's doing something crazy like traveling the country in a motorhome, which I know most people would not want to do, or it's like living by the beach, which we're doing now. We move into our first dream home July 10th. I'm just in a short-term rental right now. So maybe we can do another interview once we get into that house, Cliff, and my internet connection's better there, and the background will be nice overlooking the ocean.
Well, that would be awesome. What I'd love to do is we're going to be in Puerto Rico on a Thursday when the show is normally aired, and perhaps if Trelvis can figure out all the science and technology behind it, perhaps we could do Cliff's Notes from Puerto Rico. I'd love to do that, and maybe even invite Gene to join in with us. Gene Frederick, I know he's your neighbor down there. That would be very cool, very exciting. Well, AJ, man, I tell you, I'm so thankful and so grateful for you being on the show today. You always touch lives, and I hope that there are some people out in the audience today who are watching this live or watch a replay who get moved by what you have laid down and unpacked for us today, because at 32 years of age, man, you have done it. You've accomplished that location freedom, the financial freedom, and it's time freedom that none of us are able to do unless you've got to find out the secret. So I encourage you to get a hold of AJ, talk to him, ask him, and AJ, I can't wait to see you in September. Thank you, my friend, for being on the show.
Thanks, Cliff. This was awesome. Really appreciate it.
You're quite welcome, brother. All right, so I just have a couple of PSAs here real quick. Don't forget, I've got something special for the next episode. And AJ reminded me of this. I was chatting with AJ earlier this week and watched a show that he was on, and being able to take no and go for no. We're going to do a little exercise next week on the show that's built around the book called Go for No. And I want you to go to getcliffsnotes.com and go ahead and subscribe. I've got some seriously valuable assets in there that I want to share with you. And I want you also to dive in there and prepare. If you're going to be around next week, you definitely want to have a sneak peek at this. So we're going to have those assets loaded into the vault at getcliffsnotes.com. So be sure you go there. And lastly, I want to remind you, if you're in the DFW area, I have taken a big leap of faith here and a big step out, because I'm just feeling it. Every once in a while you get that, it's kind of like that big why that we were talking about earlier. But anybody who is feeling like you are not self-actualizing and you're in the business and you want to join an incredible team, we're going to put together the most amazing group of agents in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And my goal is to build a first-class $100 million team right here, right now, in the next 12 months. So if you'd like to get information about that, just go right to theclifffreemangroup.com. The information is there. I'd love to talk with you if you think we're a good fit for each other. that would be terrific. And if you're just not getting the help and the coaching and the leads and the really the things to help you move your business forward, I'd love to chat with you. So in the meantime, my co-host C3, thank you again. Great show today.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for having me.
And Trelvis, we got that. Everybody wrote down that pick. It's. I think that was kind of a layup, but we got Duke.
Keep that close.
We got Duke. What are they going to do to replace that young man? I don't know. I hope they got something in the pipeline.
I hope so too.
Yeah,
he's a big piece.
He's he's a franchise for sure.
Indeed.
Anyway, Facebook fans, great to see you guys out there. Hope you enjoyed the show. Just, gosh, I'm going to go back and listen to this when I get home. AJ has so much wisdom to share. We will check with you next week, same time, same station. And you guys have a great rest of your week. We'll talk to you soon.